Hey there, I'm Shannon, your RC princess. Welcome to my channel where we dive into all things radio controlled, crawlers, bashers, builds, and more. Whether you're new to the hobby or a seasoned pro, I'm so glad you're here. Let's have some fun and make RC magic together. Today we're diving into the fascinating evolution of RC crawling, from its humble DIY beginnings to the advanced rigs we know and love today. Whether you're new to the hobby or you've been crawling for years, you're going to love this journey. Let's get into it. So, I am not a huge history nut, but for some reason, the beginning of the RC hobby really fascinates me, probably because that's one of my hobbies of choice. But I thought that I would share the information that I've gathered with you guys today because it actually is really cool to think about how far the RC hobby has come in such a short time. So, a little disclaimer, obviously, I was not around when history was being made. So, I got my information from the good old internet. So, if something sounds off to you, just kindly let me know down in the comments below what the correction is because I was not around before 1994. Have you guys experienced hearing one of your favorite toys or something from your childhood that really meant something to you and then you hear the words retro? So mine was like the light bright where you stick in little pegs and create a picture. And a couple years ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I was looking for one on Amazon for my son and it said retro toy and I was like, oh no. So yeah, little side note there, but I'm not handling 30 very well. So I want to start with the very beginning. And according to online sources, the first RC car that was invented was a nitro powered Ferrari. This was invented by an Italian electronics company whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. So basically, from my knowledge, RC kind of started with it was one big lump of, radio controlled. And then over time, it started splitting off into different categories. So the side hobby of RC crawling has really only been around since the 1980s. And so back then, people were taking trucks that were designed for bashing and racing. Think of models like the T-Max, the Clodbuster, and they were kind of transforming them into an RC crawler. So it was totally DIY basically. They wanted to modify them to handle rocky, uneven terrain. And this is kind of when the shift started. It shifted away from speed control and more about performance on, different types of terrain. Obviously, these trucks weren't built for that purpose, so hobbyists really had to get creative. They started modifying gear ratios, tires, and suspensions to make their trucks slower but more powerful, and just like that, the crawling community was born. Do you guys remember your first RC crawler? And was it something that you built from scratch or was it a ready to run model? Let me know down in the comments below. So fast forward to about the 2000s, manufacturers started to take notice on the attention to wanting an actual rock crawler. So in 2007, Axial actually launched the first dedicated rock crawler. It was the AX10 Scorpion, which looks so antique to me. Looking at the crawlers that we have today that you can go buy on the shelf, it looks so antique, but it's so cute. I would love to get my hands on one of these. But anyway, Axial took notice and they were like, hey, we can make this happen. And so 2007 is when the RC crawling community really got what they were looking for, kind of. The AX10 had everything you needed for crawling right out of the box. It had solid axles, adjustable suspension, and a motor placement that was optimized for rock crawling. Finally, hobbyists didn't need to modify their trucks from the ground up. So this was the turning point where RC crawling really took on its own form. It became its own little niche in the RC hobby. So companies now like Axial and RC four-wheel drive and others started developing components and vehicles specifically for crawling. So in the later 2000s, as the hobby grew, people wanted more from their rigs than just performance. And this is where scale crawling really took form. So this led to models like the Axial SCX-10. The SCX-10 set the standard for scale realism. We saw detailed bodies, functional accessories, and of course, the kind of performance you expect from a top-notch crawler. Scale crawling became a hobby within a hobby. People started adding lights, weathering effects, and even creating miniature trails and setups just to get the perfect realistic look. It wasn't just about performance anymore, it was about style. As crawling continued to evolve, organized competitions started popping up. This is where things got technical. Vehicles like the Axial XR10 and Losi Comp Crawler were designed specifically for these events. They had lightweight chassis, insane articulation, and even dig units that allowed drivers to lock their rear axles for tighter turns. The competitions became all about precision, navigating technical courses with the fewest penalties, and for a while it seemed like comp crawling was the future of the hobby. But then moving on later, scale crawling really became a thing again. Like there was a boom in it, like it almost took over yet again. And I would say to present date, that's kind of where we're at. I know a lot of people do competitions and things, but I would say that overall, if you ask somebody what is the most important thing to you, a good amount of people will say like scale realism. Like, yes, we want our rigs to perform well, of course. I think what companies are doing and doing pretty well is figuring out how to get the scale realism looks with the performance aspect as well. So combining both the two. The Axial SCX-10 and SCX-3 took things to the next level with more realistic body designs and hidden body clips. Portal axles became more common, like on the Traxxas TRX-4, and remote locking differentials gave drivers even more control. And now, today, in the 2020s, we are seeing a rise of large scale crawlers and a demand for it. You guys know that I love my six scales, the Jeep and the Honcho. Absolutely love them. They're awesome. I would never say that that is, if I could keep one rig from my collection, I don't think the six scales would make the cut. As much as I love them, they're not always practical on places that we go. 10 scale has a special place in my heart. So the Axial SCX6 Jeep Wrangler was released in 2021, and it's a prime example of the rise of larger scale crawlers. These larger rigs not only look incredibly realistic, but offer a much more immersive driving experience as well. Along with larger scales, we're seeing constant improvements in technology. From brushless motors to LiPo batteries, RC crawlers are more capable than ever. Not to mention, 3D printing has allowed hobbyists to create custom parts like never before. So, where is RC crawling going next? Well, customization and scale realism are only going to get bigger. We're going to see more innovative products from brands like Axial and Traxxas, and the technology will keep improving. And also, 3D printing and sustainability are also going to be huge trends in the coming years. So, if you really think about it, RC crawling started as like DIY, and we've really almost come full circle with the technology of 3D printing now because people are printing things to customize their rigs. It's really cool to think about if you actually take the time to think of where we have come in our hobby. People now have the ability to create custom parts right from their home. Like, how cool is that? Well, there you have it, the evolution of RC crawling from its humble DIY roots to cutting edge technology we have today. It's been an amazing journey. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please be sure to subscribe for future content and also give this video a thumbs up to tell me that you liked it. And leave a comment down below telling me where you think RC is headed next. And if anybody has any historical moments in the RC hobby that I've missed, please leave them down in the comments section below as well. I'm sure I missed some, but I tried to get like the main basics. I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!